Hi, this is Kathi Quinn with Floriani. Floriani is a division of R&K Distributing, and I want to welcome you to this week's Tip of the Week. I've had a lot of requests to talk about applique, and this is a perfect day to do it since Thanksgiving is this week, and I'd like to do some napkins, but I don't have time to stitch out a whole lot of stitching, so we're going to look at applique. Now I'm going to come in and I want to show you there is more than one way to do applique in Floriani. First thing I'm going to do is come to the upper left-hand corner and get a new piece of paper so I can color. Now if you'll come up to the top toolbar and along here, you'll notice we have this green bush. That is our applique stitch. Now if you can draw, this is a wonderful stitch. I'm going to left mouse click. Now you could also bring up something in the background like a color book page to trace over. But I'm just going to click and show you how the tool works. I'm just going to create my shape and right mouse click. I have just created an applique. Again, if you were tracing or something, it would be great. Now when you're doing applique, what we're actually doing, I'm going to come get my magnifying glass on the left hand side. I'm going to zoom in so you can see. In applique, we have a placement line, a tack down line, and a finish. And you can see that reflected in your sequence view. Placement, tack down, finish. Let's move to the next option for applique. Now this is more my speed. I have my artwork tool up here at the top, and I use this tool so much. I'm going to left mouse click on it and I'm going to go for a custom shape. So I can look through here and see if there's a shape I like. I think I'm just going to do the star for right now. So I'm going to click on the star. Now this shape has come in as a artwork image. It is not stitches. It won't stitch out. You can't see it on your USB stick. We need to convert this into an applique. Now I have all my icons along the bottom, and remember, I love these things because it makes it so much easier. I'm going to come down to my applique icon and it says applique on it, and I'm going to left mouse click and I automatically have an applique. Now again, if I look in my sequence view, there is my applique. If I break down my applique, you can see I have a placement line, a tack down line, and a finish line. Now with an applique in Floriani, you've got options. I could say I don't want this to be a satin applique. I want a blanket stitch. Now with the blanket stitch, I have the option in here, because remember, it brings up our properties box whenever we hit one of our headings down here. It brings up the only options available to me. So I'm going to change it to blanket. The applique width, if I want it to be wider, bite in more or less, I can change the width. And my blanket density, how close together. Right now it's about 1/8 of an inch apart. When I apply, that means this comes in 3.5 millimeters. There's 3.5 millimeters in between them. Now I could change this. Maybe I want my stitch length to be 5. I've got a heavy fabric in there. So I could change that. I could change my density. Let's change it drastically so you can see it. So you do have a lot of control here. You've also got the ability to put a motif in there. So maybe I want a pretty motif stitch on my star. Maybe I want stars on my star. I'm going to apply. So now my stars have stars. Maybe I want bigger stars. I can change the stitch length on the motifs and make them larger. So you can have a lot of fun with your applique. Now let's go back to our satin and apply. Going back to the beginning. Now let me show you how I treat an applique. This is real important. We don't want our appliques to look like we did it at home with a new machine. We want it to look professional. So let's look at how appliques are done. We're going to come up here to our slow redraw tool. Now if I drag the slider, I'm just going to drag it. I could go ahead and tell it to do it automatic, but I'm dragging it because I want to show you. We're going to stitch out a placement line. Now once your placement line is down, typically we lay a piece of fabric over it. Then we come in and we tack it down. And in home applique, It's right on top of that placement line. They are on top of each other. So now we take the hoop off the machine and we trim it. First big mistake, because a lot of times you'll pop that hoop, or you'll put your weight of your hand on that fabric, and now it will hammock and not match up. Now in Floriani, you notice we are a little different, because when we do an applique, when this tack down stitch comes in, it's offset by 25%. This is how professionals do it. They don't stitch right on top of it. Now the next thing they do not do is professionals do not trim in the hoop, because that's asking for trouble. Plus it takes forever. I can save you time, fabric, and have a perfect stitch out every time if you follow my way to do applique. Now I'm just going to right mouse click on screen to turn off my slowed redraw. Now you notice this says applique. Now it shows me the 3 pieces of applique, but it won't let me play with them individually. So I am going to select the applique, right mouse click, and say, look, I've already decided all my applique settings. I've changed my outline to satin, blanket, motif, whatever I wanted. Now that that's all done, I want you to tear this up and not treat it as an applique. I want you to preserve it as stitches. So now notice I have a placement line, a tack down line, and a finish. Now I'm going to left mouse click on my satin stitch eyeball, and it went to sleep. I'm going to left mouse click on my tack down. All I'm left with is my placement line. So I am going to select the placement line, right mouse click on it. I'm going to copy it, open a new piece of paper, right mouse click, and paste. So now I have a new design that is just the placement line. So now I'm going to go to File, Print Preview. What I will do is, and in our settings, you have choices. I could tell it print the color analysis, show the crosshairs. You can tell it what you want on this page. But for this, I don't want a color analysis. I've only got one color really, because I'm going to do tack down, placement, and then finish. And I don't want these crosshairs because there's no reason to print them. So let's say OK. Now I have just the placement line. So I'm going to take a product called Applique Wonder. You can get it in 8.5 by 11 sheets. I'm going to put that in my printer, and I'm going to print this placement line on the shiny side, the paper side of the Applique Wonder. So once it prints out, Applique Wonder is fusible on one side and has a paper on the other. So I'm now going to fuse it to my applique fabric and pre-cut it. And when I cut it, I cut right outside, right on the edge of this blue line on the outside. So now when I go back to my original design, I've got my fabric prepared, I'm ready to go. I'm going to come over here and right mouse click and say, show everything. It was all sleeping. So now what's going to happen is I'm going to print out that placement line. Stitch it out, excuse me. Now I'm going to peel that paper off of my star, with it's ironed onto my fabric. Now it's sticky. So now I can place it exactly on these placement lines. I'm going to place it down. It's a pre-cut applique shape. That's how professionals do it. It's a lot faster, a lot easier, and it's perfect every time. Once I've stuck it down, it's not going to move either. I'm not going to have to try and stick my fingers in there. I'm going to tack it down. Notice my offset. Then I'm going to finish. This is applique the professional way. You waste less fabric. It takes less time to deal with it because cutting in the hoop takes a long time. Now, how does this apply to Kathy's late Thanksgiving napkins? Well, I'm going to get a new piece of paper and I'm going to come over to my library. And I'm going to go into, I have some applique designs. Now this happens to be an Anita Good card called Autumn Applique. I've selected Brother Baby Lock. That's the format I'm going to use. And now I'm going to just hover over my designs. Now when I hover over my designs, you can see it shows me everything in that folder. So I can come in here and I can pull out, I can come in here and pull out the design I want to put on my holiday napkins. So let's say I want to put this on my napkins. I'm just going to bring it over. Now in one of my earlier lessons, and if you didn't see it, it's posted on our myfloriani.club. Look at how to make sure you've got perfect placement on a corner of a napkin. I've already shown that video. Now notice here, I've got an applique, so I don't have to stitch out the whole pumpkin. I'm going to use a piece of fabric, so it's going to take a lot less time to stitch out. So what I do is I'm going to come here, and how I normally do it is I start closing the eyeballs from the bottom up. Well, I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need the grapes. I don't need this. I don't need the willow green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to turn off all these eyeballs till I'm left with the placement line. That's my goal. I just want to be left with a placement line. Now there is my placement line for my fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, whoops, I missed one. There. I'm going to click on the one, I'll make sure everything's turned off. Yep. I'm going to select this. I might make it a darker color just so it prints good, and a lot of times I'll make it black. Now, because I don't want my printer to waste coloring. So I'm going to come here to right down here at the bottom left-hand corner, I'm going to come to my thread search, and I'm going to type in, I could type in black or 900. Let's type in black. Find my black. There it is. So I'm going to left mouse click on it. I've turned this black so I can see it very easily. And I'm going to right mouse click on it, copy, open a new piece of paper, right mouse click and paste. So now I've done the same thing. I have my placement line to cut my fabric by, so I know it will be perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and print this out, iron it onto the back of my pumpkin fabric. I'm going to cut it out, and then we will come back to our design, right mouse click in your sequence view, show all, and then what we're going to do, now I changed this color. Undo is always, whoops, my friend. So right mouse click, show all, there we go. And you could have left it, it really wouldn't have mattered. But I just showed you if you needed to change it back. If it had affected anything else, you can always change that color back. Now I've got it here. What are we going to do? We're going to come in here. Let's see what happens with slow redraw. We're going to do our placement line. Stick down, put your piece of fabric. Peel your back of your Applique Wonder off, stick it in. Go ahead and finish. This is going to stitch out a whole lot faster than if you're trying to stitch pumpkins on the corners of those napkins. There's lots and lots of applique designs. I'm sure you own several hundred. So you can go in there, find you some holiday themes and make you some napkins quick but like a bunny, because you don't have to use all those stitches. And let me tell you, applique always has a higher perceived value. You and I know it cost me less, it took less time, the design looks really good, but when people see the finished product, it looks like it's a lot more expensive. So I hope you enjoyed this week's Project of the Week tip, and I hope you get time to stitch out those napkins. You know, you don't have to eat until noon, so you've got at least two nights to work on it. Talk to you later. Look forward to seeing you next week.